Now, expelled ambassador to the United States, Ibrahim Rasool, is expected back home today. The U.S. declared him persona non grata following comments he made about President Donald Trump during a webinar just over a week ago. Now, Rasool's expulsion has been met with some mixed reaction. All right, we're going to now cross on over to our discussion here then, and we're going to try and get some perspective on this, right? Because these developments are really significant then for the country, and especially with such a massive trade partner such as the United States. Let's talk technicalities aligned with foreign diplomatic deployment. Former diplomat himself, Saul Molobi, who is South Africa's former Consul-General to Milan then from 2012 to 2016. Saul, appreciate the time. Good morning to you. Let's just talk about the life of a diplomat to begin with, if you will. Just how difficult is it being in a foreign country, ensuring that the messaging from your own country, from South Africa, is actually clear and not misaligned?
It is very important that once you arrive at a particular country, you have received sufficient training from back home. The Department of International Relations and Cooperation has a very good training mechanisms for all people who are going on diplomatic training or diplomatic posting. If I give you an example, if you are going on posting as a head of mission could be a Consul-General or an ambassador or a high commissioner. You first receive a 3-month orientation program here at home at DERCO. But if you are going there as an official supporting a head of mission, then you are first required to undergo a 1-year training program through the Diplomatic Academy. And that 1-year program in mission management is accredited by the University of Pretoria at honors level. And once you complete that 1-year program, you are then placed in a desk. And each desk is assigned to one country. And every year, the desk with the South African diplomatic mission in a particular country will then produce a report on that particular country. So you have to go through all these reports on your host country. In fact, we also encourage, and unfortunately, I would say, based on my experience, we haven't succeeded in doing this very well. We also encourage South Africans who are visiting any other country, especially on business, to see South Africa's diplomatic mission in that host country as their first port of call. You need to go there to get a briefing on business etiquette in that particular country and what matters to business community in that particular country, so that by the time you engage with them, you know that what are their expectations. And it's quite difficult, especially coming from South Africa and an African country, because we know there are negative perceptions about Africa and her country. So it is important that if you get that briefing from the South African diplomatic missions, you are able to know what are the misperceptions that you have to deal with in order for you to receive respect from the people who will be hosting you. So as an ambassador or head of mission, the good thing is that you will have a support staff in a mission, and this support staff will be people that we refer to as locally recruited personnel, LRPs. These are people often nationals of that particular host country. And most of them, you'll find that they've been working for our embassies for for 10, 15, 20 years.
Yeah.
So they have seen many heads of missions coming and going, and also many ordinary support staff who came to the mission and left, because
Saul,
our diplomatic posting is only for 4 years. So meaning that those LRPs have received many South Africans who only came
and kind of
in
know
on a
the
4-year posting,
yes.
and they had to return back home. So
So,
that's
Saul, let me ask then, does this training happen continuously? And what I mean by that is you could have a deployment like yourself as you had between 2012 and 2016. And let's say you were to have another deployment. Would you have to undergo the same training or at least then a more advanced training, etc., before your next deployment?
No, if you are appointed, and in my case, then I came back home, then I was out of the system. If they were to reappoint me, then I still have to go through the 3-month orientation program.
Okay.
Because remember, the training is also based on the priorities that the current administration has identified. So you have to understand what are the priorities, not just of the Department of International Relations and
Sure.
Cooperation, but of government as a whole.
Yeah.
During that orientation program, we even have provinces coming to present on their priorities. And do remember that if you are on a diplomatic posting, you represent the president on behalf of South Africa as a country.
Yes.
And that is why you even have previously people from other political parties outside of the governing party who were appointed as ambassadors of the country. The name that comes to mind is Tony Leon, the former leader of the DA, who was posted to Argentina as an ambassador. So you represent the country, so you have to understand the country in its totality, because you are not just representing one entity of government, but
Yes.
you represent the country as a whole.
So, with a situation then that we find ourselves in, and maybe I know perhaps you can't speak specifics with regards to Ambassador Rasool, for example, but how worried or how wary are you when you are deployed then that every word you say ultimately is being watched? Because if your wording still represents what your country is about, you aren't speaking incorrectly, but you are speaking perhaps to the wrong audience. Is that something you have to ultimately understand? Do you get sort of press training, for example, understanding the kind of decorum you need to hold as well when you are in certain areas?
Yeah, what is happening is that within the embassy staff or the consulate staff or the high commission staff, you have qualified people who support you as the head of that mission. But over and above that, you also have the political desk in Pretoria. They are highly supportive, sometimes even in terms of refining your speaking notes, or sometimes even developing your speaking notes if you call on them to provide you with that kind of support. One seasoned diplomat said to me before I went on diplomatic posting that do remember that there is no flexibility in diplomacy. And people who know me, and I think even when you look at me right now, you'll see that I'm wearing earrings, I wear bangles, and I never wore suits before I went to Italy, even though I was the spokesperson for the department. And basically, they said to me, remember, you are representing the head of state who's always in a formal suit, in a tie. Therefore, you have to look like them. And my minister then said, by the way, Saul, you are going to leave your earrings at the airport, and then when you come back, you will find them there waiting for you. And this is exactly what I did. But all I'm emphasizing is that the political desks in Pretoria are highly experienced professionals who will provide heads of missions with all the necessary support they may require in terms of understanding the dynamics of politics in that particular country, but also being able to provide you with support to situate the politics in that particular country within the geopolitical space. So that's one is important. And also we should all believe in the principle of lifelong learning. You have to read newspapers whilst you are there. You have to attend seminars whilst you are there, and usually we also have an annual heads of mission conferences taking place. If this year it's at regional level, for instance, or all the heads of missions in Europe will get together for a year to look at the priorities arising out of the State of the Nation address. And then the second year will all convene as heads of states from all over the world in Pretoria to get a briefing from head office. And head office in this instance means all elements of government, especially your clusters that will be coming to present to us, so that when we go back, we are in touch with the developments here at home. But also growing up as an activist, we always said that you needed to study the balance of forces. Basically, you look at your weaknesses as a country vis-a-vis your host country, and from there you look at in which areas where we need them the most, and in which areas where they need us the most, so that you can use that as your leverage to be able to get them to agree to certain positions that you want them to support in favor of your national interest.
So I'm going to have to leave it there, but thank you so much. I think an educational lesson, I think, for all of us in all of this as well. Just the kind of training, the kind of understanding, the needs that are basically laid out as well when it comes to being a diplomat and the diplomatic deployment as well. Former diplomat then, Saul Molobi, joining us there to help us get a clear sense of understanding in and around that as well.